thanks so much for your time. First of all, have you read some of these testimonies?
I have, Laura, and I have to say, it's incredibly distressing to read some of these accounts from mainly young women talking about what happened to them when they were at school, at parties and at different social events. But I think it's so brave that they've come forward to share their stories. It's really important that they have, but now it's about what can we do to address some of the issues that they've raised.
What do you need to do in schools?
So, look, we've actually done quite a bit, and I think if there's, a good element to this story, it's that a lot of the ladies who have been sharing their accounts were sort of earlier in sort of 2013, 14. In 2018, we did a major overhaul of the PDHPE curriculum in New South Wales, and we now actually have consent and respectful relationships taught explicitly to students in an age-appropriate way. And so I think that's important. The fact that we've seen some improvements in the curriculum in the last couple of years after consultation with students and teachers and parents means that we are addressing this issue in the curriculum. I think more broadly we need to look at some of the cultural issues in some of these schools, and a number of schools have been named as part of this petition. So, I think it's about looking at what these individual schools need to do as well.
A lot of them are private schools, single-sex schools. Is that a problem?
Yeah, look, you're right. A lot of the accounts coming through at the moment relate to independent schools, and I know it's something that the independent school sector in New South Wales is taking very seriously. In our government schools, we have an additional program that we do, which is called Life Ready, which provides students with more information around respectful relationships, consent. We've offered to share those resources with our non-government schools in New South Wales, and that's been very warmly received because this is about sharing advice, making sure that all students, both men and women, understand what it is to have consent in these sort of relationships, to be respectful of their partner. And I think it's important that these independent schools are taking this seriously, but I know that they are, and I've been really heartened by comments from some of the principals within the last few days that this is an issue that they want to address and work with the school culture, which is very important.
You say the curriculum is age appropriate. What age do you deem this kind of education to be appropriate?
Yeah. So, look, within the PDHPE curriculum from kindergarten to year 10, there are references to things, particularly early on for children about, knowing which parts of your body are private, what it means to be respectful of others. And then obviously in high school, that's when we move into more detailed conversations around things like consent in relationships, respectful relationships. And I do think that there's been a lot of work done in this space in the last couple of years. I think that Life Ready course for year 11 and 12 students particularly is very timely, and we've seen that introduced in our public schools in the last 2 years as well. So I think there's a lot in the curriculum, there's a lot of content, but it's also about making sure schools have the right resources, and if there are individual circumstances where schools feel they've got issues with their school culture, that they've got advice and support going to students, but also parents. So these conversations are happening outside of school as well to really make sure everyone knows what respect is in a relationship and how people should be treated.
We'll get to parents in just a moment. But Minister, there's been an ideological debate really about this in years gone by. Many politicians on your side of politics are uncomfortable with role plays, discussions of homosexuality, and there was a massive debate about the Safe Schools program in years gone by. What do you have to say to your colleagues, and what do you think about those debates now?
Oh, well, look, Safe Schools has never been part of the curriculum in New South Wales. No. I'm confident with what we've got in the New South Wales curriculum around how students are taught about these important issues. It's part of the PDHPE curriculum, which I think is appropriate. And I think petitions like this, people like Chanel Contos coming forward and talking about what happened to her and other young women doing that, it's important, it's brave, and we need to listen to what they're telling us so we can improve school culture. And, these are things that are happening outside the school gates, Laura. This is weekends, it's parties, it's afternoons,
right.
And I think we've got to be cognizant of that as well.
Well, parents seem uncomfortable with their children being taught about sex from an early age. Is that naive?
Oh, look, as I said, I think the curriculum in New South Wales is age appropriate, and I've had a look through our syllabus documents to really understand what's taught. I'm a parent myself, I have 2 girls, and I think it's important that my children understand about what a respectful relationship is, but that's also my role as a parent to be a part of that conversation as well. And look, I haven't heard negative feedback from parents about this. I think what I've heard in the last few days is just making sure that we have all the support available in a school context, that women and men feel feel they can speak up about these issues, but also that we've got the resources in place that we need to support schools and outside school as well.
We are focused on young women, and rightly so, but for the young men that might be watching this today, and I note in the testimonies not all the blame was directed at young men, what do you say to them?
I think this is an issue for young men and for young women. This is about everybody understanding what consent is in a relationship and being respectful of each other. And I don't think this is a women's issue or a man's issue. This is about us as a society and as a community saying you have to respect people that you're in a relationship with from high school relationships onwards. It's really important. And I think that, if we're talking about that messaging now, that can only be a positive thing.
Minister Sarah Mitchell, really appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks, Laura.